Welcome to my home. Won't you join me? Pour your favorite beverage, light a scented candle, and prepare yourself for today's true tale of the paranormal with Neferkefri, your hostess with the ghostess. Today's true tale of the paranormal takes us back to 1975. I was in elementary school at the time, 6th grade to be exact. And that was the time, the age at which girls started to have sleepovers. And I'd never had a sleepover. I was raised an only child, and my parents just thought I was too young. So I wasn't allowed to have anybody sleep over. Yet, strangely enough, I was allowed to go sleep over at friends' houses. I don't know. I think they just didn't want other kids around, you know? So anyhow, kids were having sleepovers at one another's houses and stuff, and I had yet to be invited out to one. Well, finally, one of my friends did invite me, and I was all excited, and we went and had the sleepover, and the first thing that they want to do is get out a Ouija board. Now, this was my very first experience with a Ouija board. I do have another video on my channel, linked below in the description. That is my second experience with a Ouija board. So now we're going back to the first experience. And I was 12. All of us were 12, 11 or 12. We were all in 6th grade together. And the girl, she pulls out the Ouija board and says, "This belongs to my brother." Now, her brother was a biker. As in, he had an actual motorcycle, and he was like around 18, 19 years old. So he had already graduated high school. And so, of course, none of us really knew him. And there was this big age gap between my friend and her brother. So they didn't really play much together, being a boy and a girl and having so many years between them. And there was another brother between. So she wasn't very close with this brother at all, really. And by that time, too, he was out of the house, but he had left a lot of his stuff behind, including this Ouija board. And I said, "Well, what is this?" And she goes, "It's a game, but it's a game that allows you to talk to spirits." And I'm just like, "Oh, I don't know about this." And the other girls were like, "Oh, let's try it. You know how it is. You get one kid to egg on the rest, and then they're all gung-ho for it, right? And I'm sitting there going, I don't think so. And they're like, "Oh, come on. Don't be a stick in the mud. Come on. And I was just like, I'll just sit here and watch y'all. I'll watch y'all do this, and I'll just kind of be here." And they were like, chicken, and, whatever. So they all get out the board, and they all put their fingers on the planchette, and they start asking, "Is there anyone there? Is there anyone there?" And then the planchette eventually, after like a good 5 minutes or so, they were just about ready to put the board up in disappointment when it started to move, and it went to the yes. And then they all started accusing one another of moving the planchette, as you do, And I'm sitting there going, "Man, I don't care if someone's moving it. This is creepy. I want nothing to do with it." So I was on the couch, and they were all on the floor at my feet playing with the Ouija board. And so they start, asking. This one girl asked, "Are you a spirit?" And it circled around and came back to the yes. And then another girl, brilliant girl in our group, asks, "Are you dead?" So it circles around and goes back to the yes, and they all kind of giggle. And I, at that point, I interject, "I don't think you should be playing with this thing. I think it's dangerous." And it immediately, the planchette, it like flew. Their fingers were still on it, okay? But it just flew, jerked off to the no, and it circled the no several times. And they were all like, "Oh," they were kind of freaked out about it. And then one of the girls was saying, "Well, it's saying, no, it's not dangerous. It's not dangerous. Don't be scared." And I'm just going, it was clear to me then the girls were not manipulating the planchette. or if they were, it was only maybe one or two of them that were, and the other, let's see, there were five of us, so maybe one or two were, but the other two weren't, and they looked genuinely freaked out when it went to the no and circled it several times when I said, I think this is dangerous. So they started asking all sorts of stupid questions, you know, is our teacher going to be giving us a math test this Friday? And it went to yes. And, is it going to be on the number 9 times table? It went to yes again. And we're like, oh, now we know what to study for, And I'm like, I said again, you all should stop. You should stop now. And the planchette, again, it flew over to no. And this time I saw with my own 2 eyes when it moved from underneath their fingers. So it was moving of its own accord, and then they just kind of kept up with the movement, but they weren't moving it. And then I stood up and I said, you guys, I don't care if you call me chicken shit or whatever. I'm calling my dad. I'm having him come pick me up right now. And they're all kind of laughing. And, we had read the rules before we, started messing with the board. And I told them, y'all need to tell that thing goodbye right now. You need to tell it goodbye. Don't leave the board. You need to tell it goodbye. Remember the rules. Like, oh, that's right, that's right. So they went goodbye, and it went to the no again and started circling the no. If you're hearing a weird sound in the background, that's my crazy cat. She's into crinkly brown packaging paper, and I leave strips of it on the floor and she plays with it, and that's what she's doing now in the next room. Anyway, I got up and went to the phone and called my dad, and it was only like about 8:30, 9 o'clock, and this girl lived maybe 10 minutes from my house, so it was no problem for him to come get me. So he came and got me and took me home. So what happened the rest of that evening is not now according to me, it's according to them. I love a good cup of coffee. So let's see, that was a Friday night. I didn't hear from any of my friends until Monday at school that morning. And they were all there. And they all come rushing toward me as I get there. And they say, you're not going to believe what happened. You're not going to believe what happened. I said, oh, what happened? They go, after you left. I'm like, yeah, what happened? And they said that they continued to ask the board questions. And one of the girls asked when she would die. That's like the number one question you are not supposed to ask a Ouija board. You're not supposed to ask a card reader that. That's something you're really not meant to know. Not only that, but if someone gives you a date, it can be like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You have that date in your mind. It gets buried in your subconscious. That date rolls around. Lo and behold, you do something and it results in your death. Whatever. It's just never a good idea to know. So, and then they asked, when would the girl who was having the sleepover, when would her older brother, when would he die? Well, the date that was provided was coming up in like a week. And so she was kind of freaked out, and the girl said, yeah, she started crying and everything, and we said goodbye and put the board up, but it was really scary. And I told them, I said, y'all never should have messed with it in the first place, and why would you ask such a dark question, And they were like, it was all her idea. And they pointed to this one girl, and she was just kind of like, yeah, well, And I said, so what happened? Did you tell him? And she goes, yeah, I told him, and he just laughed about it and called me stupid, and and that was it. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. So we all kind of like filed it away. Well, then the following Monday, that girl wasn't at school. And it got to be like Wednesday. She's still not in school. And we all had one another's phone numbers, So that Wednesday night, I go calling her house. I don't get any answer. So I'm like, I hope everything's okay over there. You know, I thought it was kind of weird because her mom, she had some sort of a health problem. I can't remember now what it was, but she was always in the house. So I fully expected at least her mom to be there and to answer the phone. And I didn't get anything. So I was like, okay, whatever. So the next day I figured she's gotta be at school on Thursday, right? Thursday rolls around, she's not in school. And by this time, the other girls and I, we're all worried. And they're all like, yeah, you know, I don't know what's going on. And I told them I tried calling her last night. They're like, yeah, we tried calling too. None of us got an answer. And we're like, I know. So then Friday comes and we think for sure she's going to come on Friday because at the very least she's going to have to collect her, you know, little homework assignments from the week so she can do them over the weekend. Nothing. And our teacher asked one of the girls who lived several houses down the street from this girl if she would bring and put her homework in the mailbox. He specifically told this girl, don't bother to knock on the door. Just put the homework in the mailbox. Can you do that? She goes, yes, I'll do that. So she said when she got there, this family did not have a garage. They parked their cars in the driveway. So you'd always know if someone was home because one or two of their cars would be in the driveway. She said there were no cars there. So she figured no one was at home. And she put the homework in the mailbox and left. And again, we continued calling that whole weekend and none of us were getting the call picked up. Well then, the following, like Tuesday or Wednesday now, we've already had a couple of days of school and that girl still hadn't shown up. She finally comes back to school, very subdued, very quiet. And we're like, what happened? What was going on with you? You were sick a long time. She goes, no, I wasn't sick at all. And they said, what happened? And they said that the previous Saturday night, her brother had been out on his bike. He got into an accident. He hit a tree and died on the exact date the Ouija board had predicted. So the other girls totally flipped out because they had all been given their death dates and they were all distant years in the future, you know, like what you would expect being a little kid, except for her brother was given a date a week to the day later, you know. And that's why you should never mess with a Ouija board. I mean, honestly. And the chances of you getting a darker spirit who attempts to mislead you is really high because the Ouija board is an open portal. And the minute you start using it, you open that portal and anything can come through. And I know it's the time of Halloween and all that, and people go to Halloween parties and there's inevitably going to be a Ouija board present. Please do as I did. Sit back. Do not partake. You know, just in case the worst should happen. So that is my very first experience with a Ouija board. I thank you for watching. If you like what you've seen, I ask that you give a like, subscribe, and above all, please drop a comment. Comments help the YouTube algorithm to see that there are people interested in my videos, and it will show it to more eyes. And more of my videos are showing up in, recommendations now. And that's because of you. I thank you all so much for your support, and I look forward to sharing the next True Tales of the Paranormal with you. This has been Never Kefri, your hostess with the ghostess, wishing you a wonderful week ahead. Today's True Tale of the Paranormal takes us back to I can't do math. Wait a minute. Okay, got it.